like that, especially like that last corner. Sometimes you're coming off the brake a bit early, and that's what's making it understeer as well. That's what's been
second spin off behind you today. First was 86. I was right behind him.
Yeah, right. You sort of tend to overdrive at this corner, like.
Where should I brake? 50?
Sorry?
Where should I brake here if I...
Well, you got to learn to carry a bit of brake into the corners. So you come off the brake very early, and that sort of induces the understeer.
Oh, okay.
And here you've got to let it run out wide there, use all of the track, because you're sort of fighting the understeer a little bit as well.
Yep, okay.
Just because you're coming off the brake too early and it lifts the front end up.
Yep.
And here, just down here, you've got to change your line a little bit. Like, try not to get so close to the ripple strip. Like, try and aim for more to the outside here. Like, I normally miss that ripple strip by like half a car width sort of thing.
Okay.
And even here, like, you know, you tend to come off the brake quite early as well.
Okay.
And this is like turn 10, and that's what sort of makes it understeer as well. So you got to learn to carry the brake into the corner a little bit. And that's going to help just the grip of the car. He's not too bad. Like, sometimes you turn in a little bit early, and that's why it sort of pushes it out a little bit. And same here, like sometimes you brake just a tad early. Try and learn to carry the brake into the corner a little bit. And then here, just try and turn in a bit earlier. So what I normally do is I try and get right up on that ripple strip nice and early, and hug the ripple strip. Same here, you've got to learn to carry the brake into the corner. So if you learn to carry the brake into the corner, it's going to give you more front wheel grip.
Because I always just feel that when I carry the brake, the car's really slow.
Yeah, no, see, that's what's producing the understeer, and the car's just pushing wide. Looks like someone's having a lock-up. Cool down lap, and you can pull in, so you can work on those things. I don't have to sit beside you to do that sort of stuff, and so you said just learn to carry the brake into the corner a little bit. Like, just learn, you know, your line through turn 2. So don't focus so much on the apex. It's not necessary. So if you're focusing on the apex, you're not letting it run wide enough to the outside, which is sometimes more important. So you get the run out of turn 2, obviously going up the hill. This is better now, like, you know, as I said, make sure you get on that concrete nice and early. So just learn to try and carry the brake into this corner. It's going to give you more front end grip. And just watch it, sometimes you turn in a little bit early at that corner as well.
Do you feel like you have a drive as well?
Oh yeah, I can. Like, you know, I'd rather where the brakes cool down a little bit, because the brakes, you've obviously worked the brakes a fair bit. But yeah, as I said, to me the VTEC's not working.
Because the type S is always like compared to the type R. I think the VTEC, they made it smoother.
Yeah.
It's not as obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I own it. I don't know.
Like, it's worthwhile getting checked though. That's all. Like, as I said, just because, you know, I've been in enough cars, and like, you know, we had 3 of these, you know, and yeah, as I said, like, yours is very linear, like, you know, it revs, but it doesn't pull, because like even a Type S should be, you know, lap time should be much faster. You know, I'd expect it to be doing like around 10s. and it could be something because you're so used to it. You might think, oh, it's normal, and I don't know. Obviously, like a Honda person or an auto electrician, they should be able to get a set of test lamps and just check the solenoid to make sure the VTEC's kicking when the solenoid opens up. So it's probably a fairly easy check as long as somebody knows what they're doing. But as I said, for you, like the main thing is just your braking technique. As I said, sometimes you sort of tend to maybe overdrive a little bit.
Okay.
So just be conscious of that. Like you don't want to be fighting it. Like it should feel smooth. And so sometimes when you're fighting it, you don't let it run to the outside of the track.
Okay.
So don't forget to always use all of the outside of the track on the exit of the corners. So especially in a front wheel drive, because you're not just steering, but you're trying to put power down. Obviously, the sooner you can straighten the steering, as you know, it's going to give you more grip. So, and that's what you're trying to do, use all of the road as much as possible. But don't think, by carrying the brake into the corner more is going to slow you down, because sometimes what you're doing, you're on the brakes early, but then you're off the brakes and you're sort of trying to get on the throttle as you're turning in. But understand, you're going on off, on off, on off, on off. So you're sort of fighting it, but you're not actually able to get on the throttle. So if we looked at what we call telemetry, if you had an accelerator and brake data, what you're looking for the accelerator trace is when you can get 100% full throttle. You don't want to see this on off, on off, on off, on off, and then go. So all that means is we're just coming, as I said, that's because of what we're doing with the brakes. So if you just you could probably theoretically then you could brake even a little bit later, if that makes sense. So it doesn't mean you have to drastically change your braking technique. It just means brake a little bit later. That can force you to carry the brake a little bit further, and then it's sort of so then obviously it's going to make you faster before you're braking, and then it's going to make it a little bit nicer, obviously, from that time you're getting on the throttle to the exit of the corner, if that makes sense. So so just control those pedals a little bit. But when you go out there and try it, understand you don't have to try and try it flat out at 10 tenths. Maybe just pull it back a little bit, just so you work on your technique. And then the speed will come. But it also said just be mindful of going down a gear too early. And that's just mechanical sympathy as well. Because sometimes you go down a gear quite early, but then you let the clutch off a little bit later. And I don't know if you realise that. So don't forget, there's no rush to down change, because you're down changing essentially when you're actually braking. And what I say to people, sometimes you should be down changing the second half of your braking. First part of your braking, just focus on slowing the car down. Then the second part, that's when we're actually starting to work on our gear changes. So whereas you're sort of doing it quite early, and as I said, it just sort of hurts the drivetrain. You can sort of feel it straining a little bit